Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast Retro Life for You, movies of the 80s and 90s. My name is Chris Adams, host of the show. And returning with us, as we promised before, none other than Sholem from the Three Dash Cousins podcast.
Well, hello everybody.
How's it been going?
It's been going pretty good. It's
Oh,
I was on vacation, so I got to relax a little bit in the mountains.
well, there you go. This is not exactly a week after our previous one, like we thought we might do before. We ended up putting it off a little bit. We did Cloak and Dagger not too long ago.
Well,
That's
I
it.
blame it on my really crappy Wi-Fi that I had in the mountains.
Well, I mean, mountains isn't, it's not really meant for Wi Fi. You're supposed to be there to relax.
It's true. That's true.
So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, I'm kind of jealous if you went vacation in a mountain somewhere. I've been wanting to go to, if anybody's familiar with the layout of Tennessee, then we've got, Smoky Mountains up there, or more like hills. And Gatlinburg. I love Gatlinburg. It's a fun place to go.
I don't think I've ever been to Gatlinburg.
I like it. I like going there and getting one of the chalet cabins on the mountain up there or the hills once
Yeah, no, I
again.
was in Massanutten, which is a Four Seasons resort. I have a timeshare there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm one of those fools that bought a timeshare.
You know what? I think when I was younger and married, I think we had one of those, and you could go to a number of different places.
hmm Yeah, I got one of those when I was married, and I got it as part of the divorce because
Mm.
she didn't want it.
What were those things called? Win, the Win, the company was called Win or something like that. WYNN.
Yeah, there's Win and then there's RCA. There's a couple of them out there now.
Yeah, I don't know. We never made a lot of use out of it anyway because I don't know why we bought it. We got rid of it eventually.
Dude,
Anyway,
I've tried. I see
uh,
people trying to give the one I have away for $1 online and people won't buy it. So it's all right. I like the mountains. It's good.
well, you get some good use out of it then at least. That's all that matters. So we told you what we were going to do. If you were listening to the show when Sholem was on last time, we were doing Cloak and Dagger. We mentioned we'd like to do the movie. Or I said I'd like to do the movie Daryl, and asked him if he wanted to come back and do that. He said yes. Daryl was from 1985, I think it is, and basically, to give a quick rundown for it. Let's see, as I said, released in June of 1985. The movie itself follows what seems to be an ordinary 10-year-old boy named Daryl who's found wandering alone with no memory of who he is. He gets placed in foster care with a family and quickly begins to impress everybody around him. The family loves him. They want to keep him. They don't want to give him up. But it looks like his parents show up, and his parents were actually doctors because, there's a twist to all this. Daryl isn't exactly your typical kid. He is actually an experimental government project, an android with artificial intelligence designed by the military. Um, when the truth starts to unravel, the military realizes they can't use him because he doesn't fit exactly the criteria they were looking for, and they want him shut down. So, of course, there's feelings involved at this point.
It was the
People,
feelings that did him in.
it was the feelings that did them in. Yeah, they couldn't have that. So anyway, Daryl itself, as I mentioned, D.A.R.Y.L. It's an acronym standing for Data Analyzing Robot Youth Life Form. Hence him being, as I mentioned, a little robot with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I
Uh,
did thoroughly enjoy that they asked him to expand when he gave him his name on the computer, and so he had to go back and put the periods in.
yeah, they were talking to him through the computer, not face to face. He was in a room playing with games, but they were interacting with his brain only, basically. And yeah, he expands everything out with the periods and what it stands for and everything. But what were your thoughts on a movie like this, made like for what it is and everything? I know what we were talking earlier. You said you had some you had some thoughts on the movie. I mean, you haven't seen it in a really long time. I haven't either. I mean, I told you it was one of my not one of my favorites, but I mean, I did have it on VHS. I'd recorded it from like one of the movie channels or something, and I would watch it every now and then.
Yeah, I think the last time I had seen it was in the movie theater with my dad.
Mhm.
So that's over 40. It was 40 years ago. And when I mentioned to him that we were doing the show, he's like, Daryl, you mean that movie about the kid who's a robot? I said, close enough, Pop. Close enough.
Close enough.
Remember. So,
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's for the time, this is what was coming out. These were the kind of movies they were putting out there. But
yeah.
it had a mixture of different things in there. You had a little bit of drama, a little bit of comedy,
And some
uh,
action.
and some action. It's a little sci-fi. I mean, where else were you going to get a movie where you've got a fighter jet, some car chases and
Not just
crashes?
a fighter jet, an
That's,
SR-71.
yes,
He steals
yeah.
the SR-71, and I'd forgot that it was the SR-71.
Took for a little joyride, joy flight, if you will,
Yeah.
back home. Uh, and then you've got some sports. You got baseball. The boy, he's a natural. Obviously, he hits home runs every time he
He's a
hits.
natural at anything he tries.
He could play pole position like nobody's business when he first tried it the first time,
And the piano.
and the piano. Yes, I mean, there was nothing the boy could do I couldn't do. I guess
But
so.
you know what he wouldn't do during the whole movie, and I kept waiting for it? For him to start screaming, Atreyu! So uh
I was gonna bring that up too.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step
No,
on
no,
you.
no. It's good. It's good. I was gonna bring it up. Let's just jump into it. I'm not gonna lie. I never put the pieces together of that. And I was reading about this movie when we were first talking about doing it. I was reading up on it and trying to get some fun facts and things like that, right? And I'm looking at the cast, talking about a breakdown of the cast and crew and stuff. And Barrett Oliver plays Daryl, and it says you might remember him best as Bastion Balthazar Bucks from the Neverending Story. I'm like, nuh-uh,
Uh-huh.
and I went and looked, and I was like, like
Uh-huh.
that's a boy reading the book.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
I
As
didn't.
soon as I saw him on screen, I said, wait a minute. I know that face. And then I couldn't wait. I kept waiting for him to scream Atreyu from underneath a blanket in an attic.
He was a kind of a, I don't want to say big name, but I mean he was, I guess, kind of known at the time.
He
Kind
landed
of
a
kid
couple of
focused.
movies right in a row.
Yeah, basically sci-fi.
Yep.
So you got Neverending Story in '84, and you got Daryl in '85 that he was in bad. And I don't know if he did a whole lot more after that. Now these days he is not acting at all. He's some kind of professor.
Right. Right.
I
No,
read
he
that.
was also in Cocoon. He was the little boy in
There
Cocoon.
you go, Cocoon. Yeah,
So he
yep.
was also in Cocoon Returns as he came back because he was older. And now he just looks like a ganja man.
He does look
Yeah.
way different than what you'd expect, right?
Yeah. He's got some serious dreads going on. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was very surprised to see what he looks like now. With the full beard, and the beard has dreads too. So yeah,
That
he's going full
that was
360 on the dreads.
that was the funny part of the beard. That's what got me laughing a little bit. Mary Beth Hurt plays Joyce Richardson. She's the foster mom. Also in the movie Interiors in '78 and The World According to Garp in '82.
Yep.
Um, it's Far Down the Road in 2006 in Lady in the Water. I didn't really follow her career too much, but she reminds me of somebody I've seen in more things than just Daryl. And I didn't see any of those other movies I just listed. I've never seen them, but I
Yeah,
know her from other things.
she was in some other things, but she also looks like a different actress from the same time period. But I couldn't figure out who it was.
That could be what it is. Maybe I'm confusing her with somebody else.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out who it was. No matter how hard I looked, how hard I tried, I couldn't figure it out. But
Hmm.
you could definitely tell that it was the '80s because her teeth were nicotine stained when they did the close-ups.
Just the general stuff around the house too. When you look at the house,
Oh,
um,
the cars, steel cars.
the cars, yes. Um, and then here was my favorite, the foster dad, Andy Richardson, Michael McKeon,
Yep, one of the funniest people in the world, Lenny.
Spinal Spinal Tap's own David St. Hubbins, and who'd you say?
Lenny,
Right, where's Squiggy when you want him? Right?
Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, that's the first. That's my go-to every time when I see him is Lenny.
Yep, Lenny and
I don't,
Squiggy.
man.
Well, and then you
Uh,
had Colleen Camp as well,
yes,
which I had
and
forgotten she was in there.
the first thing I think of with her is Police Academy 2.
Yes, I think she was in two.
I think it's
But
2. Her and
wait,
Tackleberry
aren't
get
you
together.
doing a Police Academy 2 coming up?
I've got Brian talked into. You know what? Look, we didn't do this earlier. While we're speaking of he who must not be named, tell us about the show that you guys got.
Yeah, because if you say his name 3 times in a row, he'll appear.
Man, he's like Joe Hendry. He's like Joe
So,
Hendry. He'll flip around and be grinning at the camera.
yeah, he'll just creep up behind you and show up on the camera. Yeah, so Brian and I are on a show called Three Dash Cousins with our cousin Tiv, who's lives up in Michigan. And we talk about all kinds of crazy topics. We've been off for about a month, but we're coming back. We're starting to record again. And the last episode that I think aired was Pillow Talk, where we talk
Yes,
all about pillows.
which I was gonna say, which is funny because it leads you a different direction when you read it, and then you go see the description and it's talking about actual
We're
pillows.
talking about actual pillows.
Yes.
But yeah, but there's a lot of things that can be called pillows. We'll just
We'll
leave it
just
at that.
I was gonna say we'll just leave it at that. Make sure you go find that and listen to it. Definitely suggest so. You'll get what he's saying once you get going with it.
Yeah, if you've ever been in a middle school boys gym changing room, you've been to our podcast.
That kind of humor you're saying.
Oh, we are garbage humor all the way around. Every once in a while, we come up with a gem of something intelligent, and then it just goes all downhill from there.
Yeah, well, it starts with good intentions, right?
I'm not so sure about that.
Not so sure about that either.
You'll find out about that when you record the Police Academy too.
Oh no, I've had Brian on before though. We did Lethal Weapon 2, I believe it was.
I think so.
Yeah, it was 2. Because he wanted in the worst way to reenact the drive-through scene.
Oh,
So
the drive-through.
I let him
Like you in the
reenact the
drive-through.
drive-through.
Oh, sorry, I'm
Yeah,
not supposed to say that on this show, am I?
you know what? It's got to the point, Shalom, to where I've had people on here that's just it. Travis is even starting to slip on me some. So,
Well, I
I'm
mean,
not
I was actually quoting a line from the movie.
right. I know it's. I mean, but so I
Leo
told him.
Getz.
I said, you know what? I said, have at it, man. Have at it. And he went from beginning to end the whole skit of what they do to you at the drive-through.
That's right, because it's Leo Getz.
Live
Because
whatever you
anything you
want.
need, Leo Getz.
That's right. And not to get too far off topic, but you remember when Lethal Weapon 4 come around? What really cracked me up with that is Chris Rock is playing one of the other cops in the precinct, right? And he's sitting there talking with them, and they're talking about phones. And they get the big old, they're talking about the cell phones and how they get you. Well, you know how to get you with the cell phones, right? And they started breaking that down just like the drive-through thing. And Chris Rock is doing the whole reenactment of like you get the big old rotary dial, and you're like, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden you hit the wrong number and you got to start all over again. And that's how they get you. They didn't charge you for a full minute, and now
Yeah,
you're
full
going
minute
back
of
and
long
starting
distance.
over again. That's
Well, but
great.
we're talking about Daryl,
Yeah,
so we should probably go back that way. And
that's where we're headed. Yes.
yeah,
Uh, so I'm gonna go to the IMDb thing for the cast, then catch back up on it from there. Uh, I did not know this. Did you ever watch Square Pegs?
I believe so, but I don't remember anything about it.
I don't either, and it seems like I've seen some of them because it was kids and young teen related show,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I ever watched it. So the girl that played Turtle's sister, Sherry Lee,
Yes,
the one he would refer to lovingly as Hooky.
that's
Uh,
right. Hooky.
it's Amy
She's a
Linkert.
hooker.
That's what he calls her. He calls her an amateur hooker.
And that's a running gag through the whole thing because Daryl never does find out what a hooker is.
Right. And when they find out what he actually is, and the doctor's having Turtle, uh, he's not having to ask him something, I guess is only he would know. He never really asks him, but the doctor types in, Daryl, your friend Turtle is here. Would you like to say hello? And he says, hello, Turtle. And he goes, I still do not know. What's a hooker? And he's like, yep, that's him.
Yep. Yep. And Turtle's like, yeah.
That's him. That's him.
I will say this. Turtle was the little annoying sidekick, just like in Cloak and Dagger, but nowhere near as annoying. More
and
funny than
funnier.
annoying.
But he was funnier for sure.
Yeah.
When they're talking about beating the baseball team from coming back from behind and beating them to you earlier, and the dad, Michael McKean, is like, how somebody had the wise idea to spike the punch of the other team with vodka.
Yes.
And she's like, "You can't." The Colleen Camp's like, "You get in trouble for that, serving minors." He goes, "Ah, it wasn't my idea anyway." She goes, "Well, whose idea was it?" Then Turtle walks in and goes, "Hey, I got a question," or something like that. And she's like, "Oh my God, Turtle, tell me you didn't." What? He goes, she says, "Oh my God, you did. It was you."
But then it turned out it was just water.
Right. He's like, "You owe me 750 for liquor, Turtle."
That's an
Um,
80s thing.
yes. That all right. How 80s was it from that comment about the parent or one of the parents not minding that the kid went and bought the liquor for him, right?
Right.
Not only that, but the little kid is cursing in front of them, little small words, right? Not major words,
Oh yeah.
but small words, and it's okay. There's
Well,
nothing,
it's I don't know if it was okay, but they'd given up trying to fix it.
I guess, yeah. So that was very, 80ish of a movie. It seemed like,
Well,
um,
the fact that they would like almost hit a kid standing in the road and just keep driving after they skidded around them. Yeah, that was a very 80s thing. If your butt's in the road and I missed you, I don't have to stop.
Danny Corkill played the role of Turtle. I don't think he went on to do much of anything else in the movies.
Just a couple of small things, but no, I think he was pretty much after that he was pretty much done.
And then back to Amy Linker, what I started to say earlier, she was in the TV show Square Pegs with Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah.
So, she's been in some other things. I didn't keep I didn't, go deep into her career or anything, but she's been in some stuff. And I don't
She was one
remember.
of the voices in Mr. T's cartoon.
Yes, that was it. That kind of surprised me when I
Yeah,
saw
see, I
that.
could I could hear her voice and go, "Oh yeah, she was the girl in Mr. T's cartoon show," which I am absolutely stunned that it was on for almost 3 years.
I stunned. I pity the fool. Don't be.
Pity the fool to let it stay on for 3 years.
I pity the fool who don't know I've been on for 3 years.
That's fair.
No, did you watch that?
I did. I believe I watched some of them, but again, this was back in the day where if you missed an episode, you may never see it again.
Right, and I think a lot of people, because Mr. T was big at the time, I think they kind of took to that. So that's good. That's cool for her that she was a part of that. I did not recognize the the main doctor, Jeffrey Stewart, played by Yosef Summer.
I
I,
did because he's been in a bunch of things, but a lot of the time he's a background character or
right.
like he in Witness, he was the bad cop in charge. So you only saw him for a couple of scenes.
See, that's what I'm saying. I haven't seen any of the movies that I recognize him as a background actor or supporting actor in. Catherine
Yeah.
Walker, that played the female doctor, Ellen Lamb, I've seen her in other things before. I
Yes.
didn't know her name, but I knew her face. Just like, Turtle's father, Howie Fox, played by Steve Ryan.
He was a
Um,
staple in the 80s, but not a named staple in the 80s.
right, and Steve Ryan, I'm like, where have I seen Steve Ryan? Why does he stand out so much to me? And, he'd been in Jag for a couple episodes. I used to love to watch Jag. He's been in a lot of TV, a lot of TV series. Like, we've had this conversation before on this show many times. A lot of the actors that you see from back in that time frame, they weren't just movie stars. They were all around in everything.
Right.
They were a lot of TV shows they did. He was in Taps, the movie. So, other than just Daryl, some other movies. But Miami Vice TV series, he had an episode or two in that. Wise Guy, Law and Order. I mean, he's popping up all over the place. So I mean, he's just got one of them faces. And Spin City.
Hmm.
Now he reminds me of the guy who was a main character in Spin City. I don't know if he was related to him in the show or not. He's only on one episode of Spin City. I thought it was funny though because he reminds me of the one guy that's one of the sidekicks to Marty. I started to say Marty McFly to Michael J. Fox
Right.
when he was in that series.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a very familiar face, but again, that was the kind of character you wanted as the second banana.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that looked like him were second bananas. Um, but yeah, I mean, the people that you really recognize from this were, of course, Colleen Camp, Michael McKean, and then Mary Beth Hurt, and of course Barrett Oliver.
Yeah.
And everyone else was kind of like a character actor.
Right. Right. Now, to kind of talk about this movie a little bit, you get the director was Simon Windsor. He went on to direct things like Free Willy in '93. Not only was he the one who did Free Willy, he also did Quigley Down Under with Tom Selleck.
Amazing
Uh,
movie,
the Phantom.
amazing.
Oh, I love Quigley Down Under. That's great. I of course I like a lot of the modern type Western things too, but Quigley Down Under was really great. And also this other one was a TV movie with Tom Selleck called Crossfire Trail.
I've seen that.
Yeah, he directed that one as well. And then the Phantom. Um,
Yes, I actually, the Phantom is very underrated.
mhm.
It was an incredible uh, version of the comic book Phantom. So,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. People just were like, okay, well, I saw Indiana Jones. Um, have you done Quigley Down Under?
No,
Oh,
want to.
such a good movie,
I guess we know when you're coming back for a next one. Then I guess.
dude. I'll
Uh,
come back whenever you want me. If the crowd likes me, I'll keep coming.
well, I've had no complaints as of yet or anything, So I mean, you must be doing something right.
Oh, there you go.
Uh, but the movie itself, we talked about the director. The movie itself was not exactly um, a financially, smash hit.
No,
Um,
no, it didn't even
the
cover its cost, didn't it?
the budget itself was around 10 million.
Yeah.
No, it did not cover its cost. It pulled in just over 7.8 million at the box office. So not a total flop, but it definitely underperformed when you compare it to other hits and everything. Summer, and this was a summer hit. Um, and in that same year, there were summer hits like Back to the Future and one of my favorites I mentioned, The Goonies.
Yes. The Goonies took the world by storm.
Yeah. I mean, it did, looking at this talks about the reception of the movie was kind of a mixed reception. Some critics felt it was too sentimental or slow in parts, slow moving, and I can understand that from when I watched it just yesterday. While others appreciated the emotional core and the unique concept for it, and it was kind of one of those things where, um, I don't know if you're not careful, maybe a couple of scenes might hit you in the feels or something. The end of it is good because you're seeing everybody get reunited or something.
But when he leaves, that's where
Yeah.
it gets you.
Yeah, the woman, the mom, Mary Beth Hurt, she really wants to keep him there. She wants a kid. They want to adopt, but they can't have kids, and she's hoping, I guess, Daryl is the one, and but they won't let them adopt until they start fostering kids. So it's a
Daryl
chance
was their
that
first foster.
right, and that was the first foster, and she got really attached to him and everything that he could do. Uh, it's like the perfect kid. He helped out with everything. He was really uh, uh, nice
Too
and
helpful.
too helpful, too nice, a little bit too much of everything.
So she was sure there
Wasn't
was something wrong with him and was getting freaked out about it. And of course, Colleen Camp is like, "What are you talking about? You should be happy. My kid doesn't do anything.
like what she said that they would trade their kid in for money or something.
Trade my
And she,
son in for
she said,
money.
I'm just kidding about the money.
I'll just trade him in." Yeah, that was
Right.
Turtle.
Yeah.
Turtle was a handful. Turtle was like most kids, I think, at that age in the 80s.
Yes. More or less.
Yeah, and
Um,
it wasn't until he did something wrong and then cursed that she got all excited that he was a normal kid.
yeah. And when they're talking about how it was a mixed reception with the critics and everything, it's when it said that it's others appreciated its emotional core and unique concept. It says, but for the kids in the '80s, this movie was just cool. It had that perfect balance of sci-fi and fantasy and the what if I was a robot daydreaming kind of thing. Ooh, what if I could do that because I had that kind of artificial intelligence? And I remember, watching it at that point, and you have thoughts like in '85, I would have been 12 years old. So I can see as a 12-year-old watching this movie, you're like, oh man, look, dude can hit a home run every time he gets up to bat. And I was playing baseball at that age. I mean, you know, he was doing everything you wish you could do. And then for crying out loud, he flew that plane.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know.
everybody said, well, maybe I'm a robot. Maybe but it's like, no, I suck at everything. I'm not a robot.
So like there's this I got it to make me a little breakdown here of
Uh-oh.
the plot and the theme, right?
Uh-oh.
The 80s vibes included in it. It's so basically the story and what makes it stand out. The first half of Daryl plays like a wholesome family movie, right? You get this Norman Rockwell version of Suburbia, the baseball games, arcade machines, um, his friendship with Turtle, and how Sherry, what was her name? Sherry,
Oh.
Hooky, the way Hooky took to him, we'll say. And then both families, the parents, they thought he was just great and everything. And like we mentioned, there's something slowly building up tension, and he's just too perfect. You know, he's winning everything too easy, and he's too nice, and it's like
Irons
there's
his
no
own
trouble.
shirts
Yeah, it does everything. Made to what? Made his bed, cleaned his room,
and ironed
uh,
his own clothes. Yeah.
cleans the floors.
Yeah. Scrubs the floors.
But then once the secret's out that he's a military experiment, the tone kind of shifts a little bit. So you've got him trying to the doctor trying to sneak him out and get him away. You've got the the drama going on at the military lab facility. You've got the chase going
And
what
the subsequent the absolutely required Dukes of Hazards
yes.
jump and crash. So
Right. Or how about Daryl taking over the driving of the car and kicking it up on its side on just two wheels and going through traffic.
because he'd watched something on TV that said the secret is the balance.
Right. So
Remember when we
naturally
had
at
those
some point.
stuntman shows back in the 80s where they showed us how they did all the stunts? That was
Oh
cool.
yeah, yeah. And they did that kind of thing. You mentioned Dukes of Hazard. They did that kind of thing. Bo and Luke Duke did in Dukes of Hazard.
Yep.
Got up on two wheels and kept the
Went
car
between two
going for a little
trees
bit.
or something.
Yeah, or jump over a creek bed and things of that nature. So, um, the so you got oh yeah, the and then the hell the hell words
I know they're hard.
words. Why must we speak them? The black helicopters that's chasing them down, everything. The state troopers on the highway with the roadblocks, the one that shoots him with the whatever shotgun is it is he has when he goes through there.
Which
Um,
had to be solid slugs the way they broke the windshield.
man, right? It's just one big hole there.
It's like, oh my God.
It's not there's no buckshot in there, I guess, where it spreads out or anything. That's a that's the real deal there. Then of course you get those strong themes of nature versus nurture, humanity versus technology,
Mhm.
what it means to be real in the end. So basically, he's a real kid. He grows. He's going to grow to be an adult, but he was created in a test tube. They said right. Which when I heard him say that, I just started laughing because that's how many times growing up as kids did you argue back and forth? I imagine you and Brian in particular. Well, you were found under a rock. Well, you were put together in a test tube.
You
You
know, we never claimed that. We just understood it was true.
know.
We never had to argue about that.
Well, which one of you were created in the test tube then?
Well, if I was to tell you that, that'd be giving away a family secret.
So it's Brian, right?
You know what? I tell you what, if you come on Three Dash Cousins and ask
Uh
that question,
huh.
you're gonna get an answer.
I am. He's gonna say it's you.
He
That's what he
might,
does.
but he also might be lying.
What? For those of you who have not listened to the show, how do they get to that again?
So you just go to 3-cousins.com.
Does it make you feel like you're on your own podcast right now? Three
No,
dash
because
cousins
I
having
got the address correct. So on my own show, I can't do it.
that is funny though.
Yeah. So I do want to say something though
What?
about him growing up.
Yes.
So one of the things that struck me is like, oh, this is going to get bad because he's got this cybernetic brain that is not going to grow as his head grows. So it's going to be rattling around in there like a jumping bean.
So how did they have this done though? Was it just a chip implanted in his head? Is that all it is? Because if that's the case, I mean,
Well, they did a CAT scan, and they had one of those really cool open CAT scans. Before you ever heard of an open CAT scan, sci-fi leading the way. But they actually showed that his entire brain was one cyber mass, was a mechanical computer essentially that fit in his skull perfectly. So my guess is, as he grew, they would put in bigger brains
that
because
could
they
have been
kept him on a hard drive. They kept him on essentially a hard drive
right.
that was him separately, so they could upload him at any time.
Yeah. I mean, he could learn anything. It's almost like the Matrix, He knows kung fu.
That would have been a really cool scene if he busted out some kung fu on those
I'm talking,
soldiers.
yeah, Matrix before Keanu was around.
That's right.
That would have worked.
So, but I mean, can you imagine as he gets older and his skull keeps growing and he's got this little brain in there, bouncing back and forth whenever he runs or moves?
I never thought about it that way, but I mean,
That's what I'm here for.
for all we know, they could have done something in there to where it was stable where it was at. It wasn't going to rattle around and go anywhere, and it didn't have to grow any bigger because it already held all the intelligence he would need it to hold at any given point in time.
But as his skull gets bigger, see, I think they had his head set up so they could take his skull off at any time because they were going to take samples out of the brain and they were literally, he was going to be awake and they were just going to pop the top of his head off. So I'm betting they could pop that brain in and out whenever they wanted, especially since when he dies, it doesn't matter because he's not brain dead and they bring him back like 3 hours later and his body
So,
hasn't decayed.
so that's what Turtle says, right? So, so to kind of clarify that, when he takes off in that in that fighter plane, and he gets over where the family's located, he ejects out and takes the parachute way down. He's not landing the plane nowhere, right? And they end up blowing the plane up anyway. They end up that's actually their little security feature. If it gets stolen, no one's going to have access to that technology. They're going to blow it to pieces, which is what they're doing. They're taking care of two pieces of technology in one, just one flow, I guess, right? Um, but he lands in a lake, and I'm assuming he can't swim.
So here's the interesting thing that I thought of when he was looking. I remembered him ejecting. What I didn't remember was that he was going 2.2, Mach 2.2, so twice as fast as the speed of sound, so over 1,400 miles an hour. So when he punched out, it knocked him out,
Yeah,
and he was unconscious all the way down. So he
right.
wasn't even awake when he hit the water.
Well, you could tell as you see it coming down, he was unconscious in the seat. His head was leaned forward,
Can you
where
imagine ejecting out of a plane into a 1,400-mile-an-hour wind?
I mean, why would you eject out of a perfectly good plane flying around?
Because
I
that
mean,
one was going to blow up.
I mean, I don't know if he knew that or not.
I
He might
would if
have
it was
known
going to
it.
blow up.
He might have known it.
Well,
Well,
I think
yeah,
he
if it's gonna
knew.
blow up, okay, if
I
it's
think he
gonna
knew
blow up
because
and
he
you
talked to
know
the
it,
computer.
yeah, and you know it, and you had to have, and you had a parachute. I mean, why wouldn't you go ahead and do it? I guess.
Well, but he couldn't slow down either because he had to fake his own death in the plane when it blew up. So he had to eject at full speed. Ah!
Is it just me, or when he landed in the water, did you start saying, "Talk to me, Goose, talk to me"?
Yes, but I did enjoy the explosive bolts on his chair that let him go as soon as it hit the bottom of the lake.
Yeah, yeah, man. Uh, so where does Daryl in your mind sit for 80 sci-fi films?
Um, Definitely above the Navigators, but probably below almost everything else.
Because I mean, honestly, when you think sci-fi, what's the first thing comes to mind from the 80s for sci-fi movies?
Empire Strikes Back.
Right, Star Wars, Star Trek, Last Starfighter.
Not
I
something that
mean,
looks like a normal human being in our time, in our on our planet. Yeah. Everything's
Crawl.
alien.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if I like the term sci-fi for the film, I guess is what I'm getting at. I know that's what they're gonna label it as, but I don't really like it as sci-fi, and they're saying sci-fi because of him being an android with artificial intelligence.
I would have called it a suspense movie.
Yeah, because
But I also think if they hadn't told
maybe a
everybody he was a
suspense.
robot to start
Yeah,
in the trailers, it would have been a much better suspense for people in the theater.
maybe kind of like a suspense drama of sorts.
Yeah.
With a little splash of comedy in there.
It was a lifetime story in reality. It was an after school special.
After school special. Only you had some good after school specials.
We
Some
did have some good after school specials.
yeah. Says their opinion was it's an underrated gem. It didn't get the glory of ET or there's another version of sci-fi ET
Hmm.
or the flair of war games, which is not a sci-fi game. I don't feel just more like it's all about a supercomputer and everything. But
Well,
I wouldn't.
it came out a year after the last Starfighter.
Yeah,
How do you compete with the last Starfighter?
dude, no, hardly anything competes with the last Starfighter for me for the '80s. That's one of my top 10 films of the '80s because I just love it that much. And if it doesn't show for anybody who listens to this podcast on a regular basis, that we've had Catherine Mary Stewart on 3 different times, and we always talk about Starfighter. I always manage to get Starfighter in at some point to throw
Yes.
that out there, and which by the way, she's hopefully if things go okay, third week of May, she's coming back on, and we're doing Weekend at Bernie's. So
Oh, sweet.
hopefully that works out and everything, and nothing
That's nice.
happens.
I want to say Daryl, didn't it open up around the same time as Real Genius?
Well, I
Same year,
can.
but I thought it was like they were both summer movies.
Well, Daryl is a summer movie,
I
and
think Real
I know
Genius
that.
was too. And if it was, boy, would that cause you problems.
Yeah, and Real Genius was a good one. Let me see if I can find when Daryl came out.
I'm trying to find it now. And I'm sorry for jumping off on this, but I thought that was something because I forgot that Real Genius came out the same year. And I remember Real Genius coming out in the summer. So if they came out near each other, and of course, back then you had one theater in a movie theater or two if you were lucky. Um, the multiplexes were just starting to show up. So you only had one or two movies playing at the time.
right.
So, and Real Genius was a hit. So while you look
Uh,
that up, I'm
uh,
going to
uh,
bring up something
yeah,
that was so super 80s to me, and it was at the baseball game. And at the baseball game, something I noticed that I had completely forgotten about, but I remember distinctly as soon as I saw it, was the spikes on the top of every chain link fence, even the ones that were like at elbow level. Because back then they just put the chain link in. They didn't bother folding it over or cutting off the last spike twist at the top. It was always above the top bar, and now they don't do that. But boy, I forgot all about that. And then I realized I was there, and I was like, yeah, I remember catching myself on that many a times going over a
yeah,
chain link fence.
definitely not very fun, was it?
No, no, but that was such an 80s thing that then disappeared by the 90s,
Guess they
especially on
started.
public parks. That's where they public public areas is where they had the spikes out all the time. So
They just started building them a little better. That's all.
did you catch the name? And this is kind of a weird thing. Did you catch the name of the doctor that stole Daryl from the secret facility?
Yeah.
It was
Hang on.
Dr. Mulligan.
Mulligan. Yeah.
So Dr. Do Over.
Yeah. Hey, technically that's what he was doing, wasn't he?
It's exactly what he was doing, especially
He's
when he
doing it over to
decided
do
to
right.
just drive off the cliff and not
Uh,
try to save his own life.
Release date for this movie was June 14th, 1985.
Okay.
So it was definitely a summer movie. I don't know when Real Genius came out exactly, but I do know this one came out June
Oh
14th.
no, Real Genius was January 1.
Okay.
So I was wrong, but it came out after Real Genius. You know, you can't compete with that movie that year. So
Well, there's a lot of movies that year Daryl really couldn't compete with. So
that's
it's
true.
okay though. It was for what it was, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Um if you were now seeing where it stands in our eyes as a sci-fi film, we know already. Just the movie itself, out of 10, out of a rating to 10, what would you give the movie?
Now, about a
Yeah,
6.
yeah. Go ahead and watching it now because I mean,
About a
technically,
6.
about a six. Because what I'm thinking is, well, we're trying to bring this to people who may or may not have seen it and want to watch it. So we're going to give them an idea as an adult what it would be like to watch it. So as a six for you, and I'd have to agree, like a six, 6.5, or something like that.
It's a
It's
good
got enough.
popcorn movie.
It is. It's got enough to keep you interested in it. If you want to have something to watch you haven't watched before one night to pass your night away, and
Mhm.
and you like going back to watch these retro films and relive some of them or watch some that you missed,
Some for
this
the
is
first
one
time,
that's
and
yeah, this is worth watching
yeah,
once at least.
agreed. It's worth watching. But there were so many good ones like My Science Project and Runaway and Batteries Not Included all around that time period. They were just fun to watch science fiction sci-fi in the sense that it's not current time or not real to the right now
Right.
sci-fi, not the space sci-fi. But yeah, I mean that was a time period of just absolute amazing movies, all in the sci-fi. It was sci-fi was definitely in a revolution during that couple of years.
I completely agree with you. Do you know, I don't think this was like a lot to do with Disney in any way, the movie itself. I don't remember if the company that made it was owned by Disney or not. But the scenes with all the computers at the military base that they were filmed, where he's walking through with all the big
Computers,
supercomputers going on, where he's checking for Daryl's, and he says, "We almost got hope we get away with it." And he's
right
like,
at the
"Wait, what?"
very end.
And he looks again and disappears. All those computers there, that's all filmed in the backstage computer rooms at Walt Disney at Epcot Center.
That's amazing. I could believe that, but that's amazing.
Um,
Because wasn't it released by Paramount
I think it
originally?
was.
But
Um,
back then, I mean, they're the different studios may have not liked each other and been in competition, but they didn't hate each other like they do now.
Right. It's like nowadays, all the Marvel fans will understand completely what I'm talking about. How long did you want to see a new Spider-Man in the Marvel world with the Avengers and other people like that? But you couldn't
Right.
because Sony wouldn't let you, touch the Spider-Verse.
That's right.
You couldn't do anything with them or Venom, or some of the arch, like the
None of Spider-Man's villains, and
right. None,
Spider-Man has some of the greatest, like just normal people villains ever
Right, well,
created.
you turn around and you've got, movies that were spun off of there that they were Spider-Man, so they did like but they were calling them anti-heroes, right?
Yeah.
So you got like that's what, you did with, uh, Craven the
Yep.
Hunter,
Craven.
Morbius,
Hmm. Well,
and
Morbius was, yeah. Well, Morbius was. We'll just leave it at that.
yeah.
Morbius was, what I loved is when they teamed him up with Blade. I thought that was hysterical in the comic books when they teamed him up with Blade. Morbius, a vampire, with Blade,
The
a
Vampire
vampire
Hunter.
killer. And they were on the same team for what was it? It wasn't the Defenders, it was something else like that. But
Was that the Sons of Midnight or something like that?
yes, it was the Sons of Midnight.
So you've got, well, not only them 2, you've got, what? You've got, Ghost Rider, you've got
Yeah.
Moon Knight, you've got, the Black Knight,
It was
uh,
a hodgepodge of, oh my gosh.
right? Wasn't exactly the best put together group. I don't think you're gonna see a movie series made up of these people anytime soon. You may see
No,
some of these characters pop up, but you
but they
won't
did do
see.
a good job where they
Yeah.
all hated each other. And they put that in the comic book very well.
If you see any kind of Sons of Midnight thing happen at all, it's gonna be on the Disney Channel.
Oh
Like
God, I hope not.
they did well, that's it if they have it, it will be. That's what they did the Defenders, right? You didn't get a
Well,
big
the
screen
Defenders
version
was
of the
Netflix.
Defenders.
Defenders was
Hmm,
Netflix.
it was.
Yeah.
Not
I don't
anymore.
know if they're actually going to do Defenders now. Daredevil didn't do
Yes.
very well.
Yes, they are.
Oh, good. Well, I'd like to see
They're
the Defenders movie.
they've opened the door at the end of this Daredevil, what was it called?
Rebirth.
Rebirth. Um, uh, well, at the end of it, he says, "What we need is an army."
Right.
And then you see the Punisher getting away from where they got him captive, and his reference to the army means in next season they're going to bring in maybe some episodes, like a couple of them are, um,
with
you know,
Nick Cage, and then
Punisher involved,
yeah,
and then you're gonna see some of the Defenders pop up, Jessica Jones and what'd you say?
Nick Cage.
No,
Isn't it Nick
not
Cage?
no, it's not Nick Cage. It's Cage, I think, but not Nick Cage.
I can't remember, but yeah, he's basically bulletproof, super strong. It's all good.
Yeah, and then Iron
And he
Fist.
worked in a barber shop. So hey,
I don't know if they'll bring all the same actors back to play the parts, though, especially the guy that
Luke
played Iron
Cage.
Fist. Luke
Luke
Cage. There
Cage.
you go. The guy that played Iron Fist, the fans made such a stink out of anyway
Yeah,
that they may not bring him back. They may go with more traditional what they thought the comics were.
Iron Fist. They messed up Iron Fist. They did all the other Defenders great. They Iron Fist was
Mhm.
the dud. But
But it does. It
it's the
happens.
way it goes. But there is something I wanted to bring up that they did in this movie that you never see nowadays, and that's where the creepy doctors or the villains actually get a character growth arc
Yeah.
that lets them change. You don't see that anymore. It's usually now it's just like an instantaneous, oh, well, I'll help you now. But in Daryl, you saw the two doctors slowly shifting to saying, well, he's not really a machine, he's human. And it took, the lady, Dr. Lamb, longer to get to that point. But you actually saw the shift as the movie went on, which was amazing to actually see because you don't see that nowadays.
Well,
Now it's an
storytelling.
instantaneous flip.
You don't get a lot of storytelling in a lot of movies because of the as I was explaining this to one of my friends. I'll go on his wrestling podcast with him, and if you want to see the most fickle people in the world, other than um,
Oh yeah, brother.
other than comic book fans, wrestling fans are a close second, if not maybe first, because
Oh
they're
yeah.
not happy if they get what they ask for. They're not happy they don't get what they ask for. They're not happy because this company does this and don't do that. Then they hate the other company because they are doing this and the other one's and not doing that. What the other one's doing, it's so stupid and
Yeah.
crazy. And yeah, I told him we're in a reality right now where this generation is analytical in a fast food society.
And
They
have no
over
storytellers.
right they overanalyze and everything, and they want it all right now their way right away,
Yeah.
and they want
Patience.
action. I want the
Patience,
action.
please.
Yeah, and the movies that do come out that got any storyline laid down to it, they'll still do well, but those people will trash the movie and say, "Oh, it just took too long to get to the point."
Well, the problem now is when you have storytelling, instead of you watching and witnessing it happening, you get dialogue, you get explanation. And so there's no like, oh, wow, check that out. When did that start? And you start thinking about it.
Hmm.
Now it's just, oh, and I've decided. So
Someone
that's
told
something
me
that's
that
missing that we had in
some
the 80s.
someone told me that they refuse to watch Lord of the Rings because the length of the films, and it's not enough action for the length, the amount of minutes they've got in the films.
So were they watching the extended or the normal version?
You can watch either one of them, and even the normal version is
Yeah, it's over
long.
2 hours.
But if you're watching the Return of the King in the extended version, that's like 4 hours and 45 minutes.
And it's an amazing spectacle.
It is. It's great. You got a lot of great action in it. You've got good storytelling going by and a lot of people who have seen these movies didn't read the books, don't know that there's so much still left out of the books
Yeah, it got cut out. Yeah, and
that
some of the best stuff got cut out.
they didn't get, like a Tom Bombadil or
Armadillo. Yep,
Bombadil.
probably the
They
most
didn't get
powerful
him.
person in the forest.
Yeah, they didn't get him at all. They didn't see the thing originally about the trolls being turned to stone in the forest, and which ended up getting brought back up in the Hobbit trilogy. And
Yes,
then they didn't
actually,
like the Hobbit trilogy for the same reason.
yeah,
Well, it took too long. There's not enough action in it. The first movie was just a bunch of short people running around. It's like watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs without the dwarfs, but a bunch of ugly trolls in it.
yeah.
And then these big people with pointy ears that shoot bows and arrows and
The problem with the Hobbit was they took what should have been a movie and broke it into was it three, four?
three movies.
So
You
they they,
got the
they broke
Hobbit.
it up too much.
You got the Unexpected Journey. You've got the Desolation of Smog, and then you got the Five Armies.
Now they did do Smog so well.
Yes. But that's the point where we were getting at a while ago when you said storytelling.
Right. Well,
Just
when you talk about the Lord of the Rings, the cinematography and videography of that movie, and then linking it with the soundtrack,
Mhm.
being able to watch the extended version with all the extra footage, um, it's visceral. It's the only way I can describe it. I mean, you feel it if you actually sit and watch it. So, and we're missing a lot of that now. And the '80s had more of wham bam, let's have fun.
there was definitely fun, uh, and they were usually, as some other people refer to it, a tight, crisp, an hour and 37-minute long movies, or
Remember when they were
an
putting
hour
out 60-minute
35.
movies?
Uh, I've never seen a 60-minute movie,
There were some movies that were like
but
63 minutes with the credits.
I started to say I have seen a 75-minute movie. So, like, you're looking like an hour and 25 minutes, and then when you got an hour and 45 long minute movie, you're like, "Man, this is going on forever." And then, like, whenever you're still used to getting an hour and 45 up to almost 2 hours at the most, and people were in agony for 2 hours in a movie, and then along comes Kevin Costner and says, "Hold my beer. We're gonna do Dances with Wolves for 4 hours, or we're gonna do The Postman
Three and a
with
half
3."
hours.
Yeah, or we're gonna do Waterworld, 3 hours, 45 minutes, I think, or
Yeah.
something like that, Dances with Wolves and Waterworld was good, a lot of storytelling to it, it's very in-depth, I thought, watching these things, just you know what's going on, you know what happened, you understand where the direction you're going is, and all this stuff, and then there's action in it, there's still good stuff in it, but, people just don't wanna sit through it,
There's a
they
lot of
want it now.
there's a lot of storytelling with just looks and movements, and people aren't patient enough for that anymore.
I tell you something else they did in the '80s with movies, and they're just now starting to come back around to this. And we always say everything comes back around. That's
Oh, it does.
when this was released in theaters, there was a promotional gimmick where if you went to the ticket window and told the employee what Daryl stood for, you get a free gift, and the gift was a mini poster for the movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so you tell them data analyzing robot use life form. They give you your little poster
Of course.
during the development, the movie's plot and the storyline they were all closely guarded secret. They wouldn't let nothing get out,
Nope.
and that included what the meaning of the acronym for Daryl was, and you knew it stood for something because it had periods after every letter. So what's that stand for? What's that stand for? They would not let it loose. And then just as they were releasing it in the I think in the trailer it tells you
Yeah.
data analyzing robot youth life form.
Yeah, if I tell you, if they had left that out of the trailer, people would have gone to the movie to find the secret.
Yeah, they
Because
still would have
there's
went.
something different about this child. Da, 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 da. Well, I want to know what it is, and people would have gone to see it. When they told you what it was in the trailers, right now, okay, so the first half of the movie now, I'm waiting for him to do something cybernetic.
For all of you gamers out there, at about the 14-minute mark, the video game that Daryl plays is Pole Positions, an old game we used to play at the arcade. Very fun, but that was most likely, as it lists here, an Atari 600 XL or 800 XL platform. Back in the day, we had Atari 2600s, we had Atari 5200s, and I guess this is more like a computer setup, I guess.
Yeah, this was that computer one.
Yeah, so I mean, it was for that. Um, Somebody asked Barrett Oliver as well. I guess when they talked to him during after the filming of this movie, says in response to whether acting is work or fun, he states in a 1985 Starlog interview, he says, "I think it's fun, but it really is a job." And Daryl, there was a part where I had to freeze to death, and they didn't even use it. It can get kind of frustrating. It's like overworked, underappreciated. I froze to death, and you couldn't even put it in the movie.
Well,
That reminds me of Peter Cullen. Do you know who Peter Cullen is?
yes.
Okay, so Peter Cullen, for those of you who may not know, he voices Optimus Prime. He did Eeyore and Winnie the Pooh. There's a Disney movie for Winnie the Pooh, and as they're going down this little trail, they come to a creek, and Eeyore is singing this song. So Peter starts doing the song at the panel he's at in Knoxville last year, and he's singing it as Eeyore, and we're all just cackling, laughing at this. And then he says now he stops with now there's a creek we have to go through, and we start going into it, and it's ankle deep and knee deep and then waist deep, and all of a sudden Eeyore's underwater, and you're hearing he's singing along with it, and
Yep.
then as he comes up out of the water, he's suddenly singing normal again and keeps on going. He said they cut that out and left it on the cutting room floor. He said all that work went through it, all that, and that was one of the best things out of it. And they thought they'd just do it on the floor.
I had heard about that before. Yeah, it's a shame some of the stuff that hits the cutting room floor, but then again, you see some of the stuff that hits the cutting room floor and go, "Oh yeah, yeah, I see why that didn't make it."
Yeah, yeah.
And then you see some of those scenes in a movie and go, "Why didn't they cut that?"
Yep. You mentioned the plane he stole earlier, the Blackbird,
Yeah,
the SR-71. Only 32 of those were ever built.
that's correct. That's correct. But something that when did that get retired? It was after the first one got shut down, right?
I guess.
Well, we now have the SR-72. The SR-71s have continued to fly until I think it was last year. So, but they were retired and nobody knew about them, and they were put in museums, except that they were still flying as of last year.
That's what it
So,
says here. It says surviving ones have been retired or on display in museums.
yes, it's true. It's true. It's just a new thing that we found out that the SR-71 was not really officially retired, but yet nobody saw it. So, hey,
Yeah. Here's a little what? A little nod of the head to speaking of flying birds, I guess here, flying machines. The government building in which Daryl was created is also the setting for the firm, FIRM, Archangel's headquarters on Airwolf.
oh, nice. I didn't even make that
I
correlation.
didn't either. I'm just now reading that, and I thought, well, that's pretty cool.
But now
Now,
now I'm remembering the outside shots of that building in Airwolf. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So there was something in here that I don't think people are going to realize. Daryl's start had almost the exact same start as Superman. All right. Old couple finds a mysterious kid in the middle of nowhere.
There you go.
Difference being they didn't raise him, they turned him over to Child Protective Services.
And he doesn't have super strength because he's just a normal kid with a little. You know what? He's a cross between Superman and Lex Luthor.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
But I
got
mean
the brains
he
but
had the
no
same
brawn.
origin story in the movie as Superman. When he first came to Earth, these old people walk over the ridge and there's this kid just standing there looking at him
That's crazy, ain't it?
and doesn't know who he is, doesn't know where he's from. I don't know if anybody else would make that correlation, but I did.
I never thought about it, but since you brought it up, that is funny. I would not have. See, I don't look for stuff like that. I've Travis here lately has been kind of analytical on the movies because we've seen them already, growing up with them and everything, and enjoyed them. Now he likes to look at them with a critical eye or something to see if he can find stuff. Um, I I found something he didn't see that I had to throw to him. He had to go back and rewatch it and see it. But have you seen My Fellow Americans?
I have. I love that movie.
So when James Garner and Jack Lemmon are just going back and forth, putting jabs at each other while they're by the creek, going to the park, where they meet that family that's all about the history or whatever. Supposedly,
Hmm.
um, he's asking him about the. He says, "Well, what time is it?" And he goes to look at his watch and realizes he gave it to the trucker lady or whatever that gave him a ride. Says he knew he really loved that watch and it wasn't there no more. But if you're looking off to the side as they're walking off, somebody is behind the bush over there where James Garner walks past, and they try to scoot over real quick and squat down where they can't be seen. But you clearly see the silhouette of them behind the bush.
That's funny. I didn't
Oh,
notice that.
I never did either until I was watching it this time around when we did. Like it was about I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, a little
Oh,
less than 2 months ago when we did it. You can go back and watch the movie though if you ever get a chance and just to see that part, if anything.
oh, I will. I'll watch it. I mean, if not for anything, them marching with all the Dorothys.
Yes, that was fun.
But
But
to be honest, the character, the chemistry between those two actors in that movie was phenomenal.
Yes, and they weren't the original two picked, the original two choices to play the roles either. They actually wanted to be an odd couple feel, so Jack Lemmon was in it with Walter Matthau. Walter
Right.
Matthau couldn't do it. So
Nope.
then they wanted to take two completely different people. At one point, it was talked about Robin Williams and somebody else. I forget who the other one was that was with him. Um, and then there was Jack Lemmon and Jack Lemmon and somebody else, and the other one couldn't do it, so James Garner took his spot.
You know what? Your fans can go back and listen to that old episode.
They can. If Tiv was here, he would tell them what to do,
See, I'm just trying to help, you know?
but he's not here.
So go
But
back and listen
definitely,
to the old episode.
that's right. Go back and listen to the old episodes. You'll get everything we're talking about.
We're getting
All
old.
the
Our brains are like Swiss cheese.
That is true, and we just can't keep looking things up over and over. We'll take too much time. Matter of fact, speaking of taking too much time, we're an hour and 1 minute into this already. So
See,
I
I could
think
talk. I could talk forever.
we got to go ahead and wrap things up on this one and call it a day, I guess. So go ahead, if you will, and let us know one more time about the three dash cousins.
All right. Yeah. So if you want to listen to three idiots, cousins, excuse me, cousins, talk to each other about various topics like poop knives, what is a redneck, things like that, or pillows. Just come on over to three-cousins.com and you can follow the links to where you can find us all over the place.
Mm, there you go. And of course, if you like this show and this is your first time listening, make sure you do follow us. We're on YouTube. You can subscribe to us on there. If you're listening on audio and you're on Apple iTunes, make sure you go and give us a review on there. If you're a Spotify kind of guy like I am, take the opportunity and give us a star review. You can do up to 5 stars. And with Sholom on here, I know you want to give us 10 stars. So you want to go do it twice. So, but if all you can do is once and 5 stars, we will take it and run. Okay.
I'll make you a deal. You can have 5 stars and they can put the other 5 stars on Three-Cousins. How about that?
There you go. There you go. Well, that sounds like a winner right there all the way through. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Also, as I mentioned, on YouTube. Uh, if you have any suggestions for us, any questions, complaints, criticisms, whatever, send it all in. I read everything. Retro Life, the number 4, YOU at gmail.com. We have a website, which is Retro Life for You. That is number 4, the letter U.com. And you can listen to the audio within your browser on the player. Um, if you'll notice on the player, there is an opportunity there to help support the show if you want to. And I believe it gives you 3 different options or a custom amount. It's like $1, $3, $5, or a custom amount, which you can put like a quarter. And since I'm retro, maybe I can find me an arcade game to play for a quarter.
No, no.
Well, I was hoping for it
You
anyway.
can come play mine for free, but I got to
Uh,
put a new monitor in it.
Well, I've already got, I mean, I have a very inexpensive way of playing. I mean, I play World of Warcraft for $15 a month. So
There you go.
I mean, if you divide the days into the dollar amount, I'm not really paying a whole lot to play the game, right? So,
That's
anywho,
I used to play that.
we'll go ahead and since Travis isn't really here to carry us out, I'm always just putting my better judgment aside and letting him tell a joke on the way out the door, right? And if you go back and listen, like he says, to the old episodes all the way to the end, you'll hear some of these things I got to put up with. Okay,
Well,
they're
you
not
want me to
all.
tell you a joke like Tiv does on our show?
I don't know what kind of jokes Tiv tells on your
Well,
show.
go ahead and ask me to tell a joke.
I tell you what, you know what? Go ahead and tell us a joke, man.
No.
Thank you. That'll be all, everybody.